Keep
the wrong
left
thing.
onto
Not a day on the road for
I-278
me,
West.
over the road. I was wondering how many people are like me and my wife that want to see wouldn't mind seeing the I told you so moment for your kids. That when they finally take over, which will happen, but who knows when. But our kids, you can tell them, look, we're going to take your house and give it, because you have 2 extra bedrooms, we're going to give it to somebody who needs it. He just graduated dental school, and well, we're going to take half of your pay and give it to somebody that needs it, and the socialist stuff, and we're going to do this and that. And they would still, for the greater good, they would still vote Democrat. And it's kind of morbid, but me and my wife wouldn't mind seeing the I told you so moment,
I think
we're in Kansas.
In 2 miles, take exit 32A on left to Williamsburg Bridge.
I think, here's what I think, JR. Watch it. You see, I sometimes pull back, as I did, and that was my monologue this morning. Let's pull back and look at these things. But also, pull back and watch what's going on. I told you so moment is coming. And in the past years, and I'm still an advocate for more peaceful than violent solutions, but doesn't mean I ignore that sometimes violence is part of that moment. We're at a point right now where the violence, and this is important, I think, they need to have the violence within their commune, like in CHOP, like they're having in these riots and protests. And when they're done rioting in Atlanta, they've just burned the Wendy's and they've done other things and damaged other business. And it's over and gone, because this will end. Bloody at times, deadly at times, or otherwise. When it's over and done and it's gone, that I told you so moment's going to become even more obvious, not even for necessarily me and you, as much as it will be for the people left living with the problem.
Yeah, but I don't think that would even change their mind, I mean, our kids...
Well, no, I'm not talking about the kids. I'm not talking about the leftists. I'm not talking about the leftists, because in order for the I told you so moment to work, you and I are not the ones that are going to probably have the greatest effect on them. But when the people that have to stay there and live with the problem realize what their own neighbors and others coming in from outside, I don't care, but people with this particular belief or BLM or whatever else, Antifa, whatever, have done to them, those people mostly live in that same neighborhood or some neighborhood somewhere. That I told you so moment is what happens when the people at the bottom start fighting for the scraps. That's when it gets ugly. It's not going to be in the nice neighborhood where the parents have given out the 2 rooms to a couple of the kids from whatever. At least ability, if not billions, millions, or maybe just enough money. They've got comfort. They can go away and live in the bubble. But what happens when your bubble is actually broken windows and broken walls, and now you're living with the results of what they've left you, and you have very little to exist on? That's when you start fighting. See, this isn't just unique to America. Look around the world. When you have less education, less things, less prosperity, less economic success, you start fighting for anything. It's the attraction to say I can go out and make an extra, make money every day, and this is my existence, because that's your existence. You're more likely to fight for it. The brawl that led to the shooting in CHOP. Why? They were fighting over it. The fact that they're fighting each other. They're not a happy little commune all sitting around doing a drum circle, smoking a peace pipe and maybe smoking something in a peace pipe. They're all fighting, not out of the... Tom in New Jersey. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, David. Tom Boyle. Nice to talk to you this morning.
How you doing, Tom?
Good. Well, I just want to speak to the fact, 2 points. One was I wanted to talk about the comments you made about the departments of the agencies that were brought on board and weaponized by Obama. The list is almost endless. It was the IRS, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the DEP. I mean, I could go on and on. It's amazing how they weaponized the whole thing.
Yeah, because they were able to use this system against itself. Flynn wanted to
In 3/4 of a mile, take exit 32A on left to Williamsburg Bridge.
The Inspector General. So what do? You destroy him. The system protects itself. They knew they could use that.
Exactly. And the second point I wanted to make is that this whole movement that started with the Mueller investigation through Schiff and now the tearing down of monuments, this has all begun and a movement that is created by outside forces, chief among them the Chinese. You've got the Pakistanis. You got a bunch of outside entities that are funding this that we need to identify. Look into how these people are getting the money through Soros, through the Tides Foundation, whatever, the Open Society Foundation, whatever. They're funding these people, and that's why it's continuing on ad infinitum.
Well, there's also the other part of it, and there's the different get the information, even private or data government. And Chinese bots, by the way, not until they were pushed heavily by the administration and others who were looking into what was going on social media. So all those things can be found. The thing is, Soros, the Tides group, these other foundations, whatever the left groups, they're smart. They know, just like the terrorists did in videos that I released years ago along with others, that they will use our laws and our system against us. And that's important. They're paying attention to how our laws work. So they have Chinese walls, to use the phrase, between the financing of organizations. They have, not untraceable, but legally, they find ways to use the system and how it works against us. So they can fund it, they can support it. Now they carry out illegal activities, but they insulate themselves. So we need to really look at how we find every case to go after them when we can, and that's something we failed to do.
There's a lot to consider about becoming an owner-operator in the trucking industry. Trust a pro to make your move from company driver
to
exit
owner 32A on left to Williamsburg Bridge.
And you into your dream truck. Choose from new or gently used. Get started with no or low money down and delay your first payment for a month. SFI works with all credit histories. View SFI's truck inventory and get started at sfitrucks.com.
There's an exciting line of products getting a lot of attention.
In 3/4 of a mile, keep right to Williamsburg Bridge.
Papa, but first to Fox Entertainment. On this Thursday morning, here's Mike Unzelman.
Universal Pictures has announced that they are in the process of remaking the 1996 blockbuster hit Twister. Variety reports that the reboot will have Top Gun Maverick director Joseph Krasinski taking the helm, and that the studio is currently looking for writers to begin working on the script. Twister was a massive hit, making nearly $500 million at the box office, as it told the story of two storm chasers going after tornadoes while on the brink of a divorce. The movie was also applauded for its groundbreaking visual effects.
I don't really care about what they say.
Dade County saying that there's an outbreak in South Miami-Dade involving farm workers that live in very close quarters. They don't have a place to isolate, so even though they don't need hospital beds, there's a huge concern.
In 1 3/4 miles, take exit 29 on right to Tillery Street.
Can go ahead and isolate and get better. The city of Miami, upping the ante, they are requiring masks already to be worn. Well, now they're thinking about imposing fines on people who are out in public not wearing masks. Again, yesterday, Florida breaking its record with more than 5,500 cases of COVID-19. And Jim and Poppy, Governor Ron DeSantis on that very day had a press conference and he said he is not going to require masks statewide. Jim and Poppy.
Okay, thank you, Rosa. Let's go to our correspondent, Stephanie Elam. She joins us in Los Angeles. California staff imposed the very first stay-at-home order, but just saw a record 7,000 plus new cases in a single day.
Yeah, that number definitely alarming to so many people, Poppy. When you look at that, 7,149 new cases in one day, just obliterating the previous record of number of new cases in a day, which was the day before, about 5,000. We're also seeing hospitalizations increase up about 29% in the state. All of this alarming, especially since so many people thought that California was ahead of the curve with its stay-at-home order, the first state to do that. And then you're starting to see these numbers creep back up. I asked Governor Newsom about that. He said that this is all what they expected because they did not see a giant spike. And the reason for that, he says, is because people actually stayed home early, and that allowed the state to prepare. He's saying that the surge hospitals are up now. They have PPE that is there and available, and that this curve was crushed. That's the word he used, that they crushed the curve and flattened it out. He also said that this number was expected to rise because of the fact that you're starting to see businesses come back online. People are
absolutely right, and good for him to say it, because this was about a lot more than General Flynn. And when the FBI and the Mueller people came after me, it was about a lot more than me. It was way bigger than this. It was about targeting Donald Trump. Why? Because he promised to drain the swamp. Who targeted him? The swamp. They were from the get-go. And as more documents come out, we realize that it was broad. The group that wanted to get rid of him and prevent him from governing, they knew exactly what they were doing. They did it from the start, and they kept doing it. This was about a whole lot more than General Flynn. This was about taking the will of the American people who elected a man to be president and undoing their decision.
KT, there was also another major development beyond what we heard from the appeals court, which is that there were new documents, new notes from Peter Strzok, the FBI agent at the center of this, turned over, and these are his notes of a meeting that appeared to be between the president, the vice president, and James Comey, the director, where Vice President Biden says Logan Act. The president, as in Obama, these are unusual times. The vice president, I've been on the Intel Committee, in the Senate, of course, for 10 years. I never did that. The president, make sure you look over things and have the right people on it. Is there anything I should not be telling the transition team about this? And then D, as in director, as in James Comey, Flynn, Kislyak calls appear legit. Here's James Comey, back during the transition, suggesting those phone calls were legit. Why then did they investigate General Flynn for years?
Look, there's a smoking gun here, Ed, and what it is Logan Act. Nobody knows what the Logan Act is. When the FBI and Mueller people came to investigate me, they laughed. They said the Logan Act, well, we never knew what that was. We had to go look it up. Well, the Logan Act is something that people who are, it was talked about in the Nixon administration, in the Reagan administration. Nobody's talked about it for 40 years. Where's the first time we see evidence of it now? Joe Biden, who was around in those periods of time, he talked about it in the Oval Office. He said Logan Act. And then we started seeing it in the media. And then it became the Mueller investigation's initial justification for going after General Flynn.
In 3/4 of a mile, take exit 29 on right to Tillery Street.
KT, on that note, I think it's important to get this sound back in here of that interview that he did with George Stephanopoulos, where he was directly asked that question, to which he changed his answer when pressed again. Watch.
What did you know about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, and was there anything improper done?
I know nothing about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn.
I do want to press that. You say you didn't know anything about it, but you were reported to be at a January 5th, 2017 meeting where you and the president were briefed on the FBI's plan to question Michael Flynn.
I thought you asked me whether or not I had anything to do with him being prosecuted.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was aware that they asked for an investigation, but that.
Rubio was just responding to that, KT. I know that you followed up with a tweet after that interview, and now you've got these newly unsealed documents that point to Joe Biden personally requesting the investigation of Michael Flynn.
Yeah, so this meeting that they're talking about,
that's the World Trade Center, the new one.
was this Steele dossier, which was a totally fake thing. And so they were planning what to do when they met Trump. They were planning it the day before. This was a carefully orchestrated plan. And again, they knew from the beginning.
Fit to print, as they say. We still have indicators. We had a better month last month with the jobs numbers, and that was important. We saw the unemployment rate not go as far down the rat hole as it likely should have by some predictions. These are all predictions, but the idea is that we're seeing signs of recovery. So given all of that,
take exit 29 on right to Tillery Street.
Shut down what's going on in this country between the left, the various social ills that are plaguing us. At the same time, we can deal with them. Look, we can have the conversation fairly about where policing goes bad. Law enforcement as a whole in this country is not the way it's being portrayed, and not even remotely close to the way it's being portrayed by many on the left and their supporters. But go bigger, climb higher, and look at the bigger picture. This is about tearing down your society, your American society, our American society, and they can never answer the question, well, what?
You know, I'm in Brooklyn.
Never worked in history based on what they believe in. At some point, and it's the, burn the house down moment, in some cases literally, or the business, or the neighborhood, or the community. But also, as we see this play out, there needs to be the destruction, the internal destruction of a job. And just like the president did and law enforcement did in Washington, D.C. when they tried to set up BHAZ, B-H-A-Z, the Black House Autonomous Zone, they shut it down. And these all-inclusive, freedom-loving, everybody, Black Lives
Take
Matter,
exit 28 on right to Cadman Plaza West.
Property, ripping down statues, vandalizing a church. Now, whether you're an atheist or not, is vandalizing a church ever a good look for your movement? Things they don't care. The communists that are Antifa, as they have always been since their beginning in the 20s,
in 900 feet, turn right on Old Fulton Street.
Supported by elements of the Chinese Foreign Ministry. There are Iranian state actors. There are other actors around the world. There are those who simply, and let's not ignore another group that has a big stake in this. The cartels, the drug cartels. Not just in Mexico and Central and South America. You've got the supply of heroin from Afghanistan. Because a broken society with customers is business. That's why border security is also important. That's why immigration security is necessary. We have to deal
in
with
2.5 miles, keep right to I-278 West.
From radical Muslims or communists. It's almost kind of interesting to me how you have radical regimes that ally themselves with each other to tear down a society, because then they get to fight it out, and back to my earlier thing about the community, fight it out and see who wins. They can't sustain it, but that's what happens. Venezuela's fight, for example, is between the Chavistas, the Maduro supporters, of who the Chavistas are a part of that, Hezbollah, who has over 20,000 fighters, and they'll just call them what they are, fighters. If you're in Hezbollah, you're, no matter what age, what gender, you're part of it. Some 20,000 by fair estimates out in the plains. And other groups.
Turn left on Atlantic Avenue, then turn right.
But yet, the Maduro regime works with Iran and with China. The communists and the Islamists working together to do what to your society? Oh no, it's all for fairness and equal treatment. Communism works out so well for everybody. It's really nice. You're all equal, equally miserable. You're all equal, equally going nowhere. You're all equal because there's no religion in your particular
1.5
belief,
miles,
including being a
keep
Muslim
right
for the
to
Muslim listening. Under
I-278
communism,
West.
you don't exist. The state is God. So Muhammad is relegated to the trash heap of history, just like many of you on the left and the Muslim left that support tearing down statues. So Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Keith Ellison and all of you others, and you CARE sympathizers, guess what? If the communists win, you ain't gonna get your happy time in Mecca.
Happy time.
Because under communism, Islam in Chechnya, other areas of the communist bloc, the Soviet bloc, were suppressed. Oh, and your current allies in China, you think China and the left will come together? What the hell do you think they're doing with the Uyghurs? They're Muslims too, by the way, for all of you who don't want to pay attention to them. They're being sent to re-education camps, not to become better Muslims and practice their freedom of religion, but how to become communists. Does that resonate with you? Oh, that's over there. In America, we'll make it work. Bernie Sanders, we'll make it work in America. They just didn't do it as good as we can. We can do it in America. So, tell me, how does this work out? How do you sustain this utopian dystopia that you want to create? If the Islamists win, the communists
In 3/4
die.
of a
If the
mile,
communists
keep
win,
right
the
to
Islamists die.
I-278 West.
So tell me how this works out for you in CHOP. 95 Patriot 95728. Oh, New Jersey, how's it go?
They're in a communist regime. You don't want to see communism here. They control the Polish people like robots. My cousin visited me in a hotel, and they told her there were no rooms available. I was going to put her up because she was Polish. They do not want communism here, believe me. And they don't realize what communism consists of. And getting to the humor part, remember last week you brought up your dad told you that if you want to get rid of a car, you leave it on a Major Deegan?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Okay, well, I worked in Western Electric out of high school. This is going way back in Newark, in the Klein's building. And I had a friend there that lived on the other side of the Whitestone Bridge. And we got paid this one day, and he drove back and forth every day, and his car broke down on the Cross Bronx Expressway in the evening. So he's got a full paycheck on him, car breaks down, and he was a Marine too. He starts walking for help. He turns around, guys are coming down the cliffs on ropes. And he started walking back to his car, and they were going to strip the car naked. And believe it or not, these guys helped him out, and they started the car for him, because I guess they were experienced in stripping carburetors and things like that, and he had a full check. Didn't rob him. He threw him $20 a piece. He started the car and drove off. So I figured you'd like that story, because they were ready to rob the car, clean it up.
Yeah, look, they got away. There wasn't a potential crime, and they got $20, which back then was
Keep right
real money.
onto I-278 West.
Real money, but it's a shame to see all these monuments being torn down, and I hope Trump institutes a year to 10 years in jail and put some of these people away, Dave.
We already have the ability. We need to exercise it. It's
In 2
time
miles, keep
One,
right
yes, I
to
do wanna watch you fail, 'cause
I-278 West.
I know that people need to see the darker side of this. They need to see the darker side of what happens up close, because it's in Venezuela, it's not quite here. It's in Cuba, it's close enough, but not quite here. And it's been in a lot of the bad neighborhoods in this country, but it hasn't been obvious and in front of you. I want to see CHOP fail and fall. It has to be such a visible symbol that the revulsion in this country by Americans is that just can't happen. Trump can't do that. A few more people, yeah, they need to get shot. There's going to be more. There's going to be dark stories out of there, and there needs to be there needs to be a fight within CHOP. It needs to come apart. It will. Why? Because do you think that there's a better outcome for the mentality of a bunch of criminals, which is what many of them are, and they are criminals, they've committed criminal acts, whether they had a record or not before, they're involved in a criminal act right now. Do you think that someone with that mentality is not going to fight someone else for a scrap, because sooner or later there's scraps? It's not like there's supply lines. This isn't a military operation in a sense where there's supply lines and there are daily supplies of food. They're not airlifting in food and supplies and water and Gatorade and, camera batteries and whatever. Sooner or later, the scraps are all that's left and they're going to start fighting. Let them have it. I want to see it happen. You need to see it happen, because a lot of you have sat on the sidelines for it.
In 3/4 of a mile, keep right to I-278 West.
One or the other, because it's not. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874.
I'm coming to you. Hey, Verrazano Bridge. Hey, I'm coming to you. Hey, we're New York tough. New York tough here. Come on. Verrazano.
It's a brand new show. Stacy on the right.
Hi, this is Stacy Washington.
D99. Behind the gates, every lot is and cleaning every single.
Because as you're talking to God about this stuff in each other's presence, the Holy Spirit kind of starts highlighting different things that one of you says, or something that another person triggered in your mind.
Keep right onto I-278 West.
Inspiration of, hey, you know what? While you were saying that, it just occurred to me thus and such.
And I think it might even be a good idea to start, a prayer together one day, and then say, all right, now let's, as we've prayed to do, and each one of us
in 2¼ miles. Keep left to I-278.
Come back together and plan it. 2 days, and really go over these lists together and pray through it again. So we all have time to really think about this.
But you don't want this to be a kind of a one-off deal. This is a conversation.
Not for something this big,
this is a conversation that should go on over a couple of days. Because you need to give God a chance to talk back, and for you guys to reflect on what God's saying to you in your hearts, and then talk about that with each other, and then pray about it some more. And St. Ignatius of Loyola talks about different ways to discern things. And the first mode of discernment is where God just sort of knocks you off the horse and you just know this is what I'm supposed to do. That doesn't happen so often. But the second mode of discernment is what tends to happen when there's two good possible choices in front of us. And he refers to this mode of discernment like sort of like how the sun comes up in the morning. It's sort of dark at first, and you're not quite sure what you see over the horizon there. But as the sun comes up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, one of the two options just feels right. As you gather more information and you talk about it more and you pray about it more, it just feels righter, quote unquote, to do that instead of the other thing. That's what you're looking for with this process of discernment. And when you and your family approach praying about this together, that's how you're...
Wow, it's crazy. There's nobody here. Usually, before COVID-19, it was packed. It was traffic jams. Today, there's nothing.
Dramatically. That means we're capturing
Arcadium.com, the #1 casual gaming site for grown-ups. Arcadium.com has the largest selection of premium crosswords, sudokus, card games, word games, mahjongs, and more. Arcadium.com has dozens of free games to play instantly. No annoying downloads or in-game purchases required. Quickly find your favorite games at Arcadium.com. That's Arcadium.com.
In 3/4 of a mile, keep left to I-278.
This guy didn't want to. Oh my gosh. Well, I spoke too quickly. Now there's a traffic jam here just before Verrazano Bridge.
This coming Sunday at 10 a.m., I want you to tune in. This Sunday, June 28th, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That means if you're an early riser on the West Coast, it's not so bad. It'll be 7 a.m. You work your way across the country from there. And just an hour different from where I am on the East Coast, this next voice will debut. Take it away.
Take it away.
I'm so excited, David. Thank you so much.
Take it away.
Share what authors have spent their time researching and analyzing and creating thought about with other people. I love looking forward knowing that we took arms against each other and conquered it together. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about ways to battle the onslaught that your kids might be facing in college. And then your teenagers and your younger kids, if they're in public education, they're getting the same kind of indoctrination. We'll talk about how to stop it, what to do about it, tips and strategies for that. And then, of course, we're just going to have a lot of fun. People, if you're listening to the show on Sunday, you're going to laugh. I'm not a Debbie Downer. You're going to leave the program feeling like you can do anything, because you can. I mean, you can literally do anything. If you're an American, you hold American citizenship, you're the tip of the spear for doing anything you want. All you have to do is stop listening to the haters and the people on CNN and just do it.
Hey, look, I've already done it, but feel free to
keep left onto I-278.
Slavery in the Middle East and Muslim slavery, which goes on around the world. Have you ever heard of Simon Deng?
Yes. Absolutely.
You should have Simon on. Simon's a good guy, and he will tell a story that people need to hear. I wish more people would have the guts, which others even on Sirius XM don't have the guts on the left channels.
You don't have the guts. You don't have the guts, man.
To actually talk about slavery while they were pushing their white privilege in America bad. Your point about conquering is important. We conquered it, and the decades that it took from 1863 to the 60s, almost, basically a century, and what it took to go beyond that.